lovely guest in the building. Can you introduce yourself for us?
Annette Williams.
Yeah, let's give it up for Annette Williams, everybody. Yeah, so Annette, she's doing some phenomenal things within the community. I love visual people that help to tell stories visually, and Annette is doing that right now. So tell us a little bit about like your documentary that you're doing and working on.
My documentary that I'm working on is called A Naked Truth. It's something that's really deep to my heart. It's about domestic violence and sexual abuse, among other things that cater into, domestic violence and sexual abuse, such as suicide, depression, and, all those things that, come into effect when you're going through trauma. It's something that's dear to my heart because it's things that I dealt with and things I had to overcome. So I figure what's the best way to turn a negative to a positive is bringing light to something that really doesn't get light shined onto it, something that doesn't really get talked about, and something that a lot of women, even men, especially I feel as though the Black community, are so ashamed of.
Yeah.
And, people in the Black community, of course, we're always, told in our household, what happens in our household stays in our household.
Right.
So as we get older, we don't understand why we, do the things we do, or, go the paths we go, or, date the people we date. So this documentary is not really just about me. It's about shining light on a subject that is just, like I said, not talked about, and hopefully that it will help heal other people and, have people to be upfront about what they're going through.
Yeah.
And get help.
Absolutely. So there are things, like you said, within the Black community, some things that we just don't talk about. Like, and where do you start with that conversation? You know what I'm saying? Like, who do you talk? What little kid? Where do they go? What do you say is the best place to start?
I mean, it starts to me in the home, and that's one thing I could probably say is my biggest regrets is not telling my family when it did happen. I wasn't open about it with my family until I was 21 years old. So from the age of 9 up to 21, I suppressed it to the point where, my mom just couldn't understand where my habits are coming from as far as like my anger and my lashing out and, why I just wasn't motivated in life, where I was just pretty much coasting. And then looking back now, I see how much it was hurting her not be able to help her child because she just didn't know. So it starts really in the home. And it is sad because sometimes you will come across, and I've come across women that have opened up and they will tell me that, I did to my mom, or I did to my dad, or, I did to my sister, and no one believed me.
Yeah.
So I just had to deal with it. So it's one of those things where it's a 50-50. If the family's not going to help you, there are other resources. You got, your church home. You got your friends who I will hope that will, stand by you. You have, run to your neighbors. Use any outlet that you can. That's something that's just really shouldn't be, buried and kept as a secret.
So what helped you pursue or gain the inspiration to do this project?
My biggest inspiration was literally even when I was going through my situation, and I was very, very well at hiding my problems. I was very manipulative, so I was able to hide everything I was dealing with when I was in my abusive situation. But the inspiration that helped me want to fight past it was the fact that I would get so many women, that I didn't know that would just open their life to me without me asking. And I think that's obviously something that God instilled in me because He knew eventually what my purpose was going to be, but I didn't understand it, so I really didn't tap into it till now. I couldn't understand why people would just start talking about, their life story. I'm sitting here like, I don't even know you.
Right.
But the best thing I could do was just be there for them as much as I could, not really understanding what I was actually doing. And so taking that, I was like, this is something that really, really, really needs to be opened about. Like, it's an epidemic that no one talks about. Of course, we get the month of October, it's Domestic Violence Month, but even still, no one talks about it. People might post their little story and a little purple ribbon, and then the next day, she's still probably going through the same thing where someone else is still dealing with it. So it's something that it needs to be shined on every day. So that was my biggest inspiration, just knowing that I wasn't alone.
And let me share this story with you. So when I was a kid, my father was abusive towards my mother, and I witnessed that as a kid. And the police got called at our house, and so all I knew, even just as a little kid, I just went to my room and in my closet and just started praying. Like, I was crying and praying and all of that, and just like, I didn't have any answers. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. But growing up, I had a lot of anger towards my dad, you know, for that situation because it's like, man, this is a sweet lady. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you hitting on her? Like, what you mad at her for? But then, you know, as I grew older, I come to find out the story that my dad grew up in a, like, I don't know if you know where not Rebadales, but it's a barbecue spot on Apache, and then there's a tire shop, and then there's a place that's right next to it. He grew up in this abandoned house, like abandoned place as a kid, and come to find out that my grandmother was a prostitute, and I learned this story as I got older, and so she had many children by many other men, and so there are kids and they grow up to be men, and they grow up to be angry, and they take it out on sweet people, like people that's just being good to them. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the thing that I had to really take back and understand. You know, what is the deeper issue with the person that's beating?
Yeah.
You know, some people look at the lady that's getting hit at times. I mean, which is good. You know, but then also, how do we help those men or women that are being abusive in some cases?
I mean, that's very important to, you know, shine light as well as on the male aspect too, because, you know, during my process and during my journey, I definitely learned that I'm not fighting him, I'm fighting what he's dealing with. And most of the things that, there's always a reason behind our actions, whether it's good or bad. And one thing I definitely had to learn, you know, in my process of forgiving those men and forgiving my dad, like, I had to think about, okay, what is rooted in them? I couldn't see them as the flesh. I had to look at the spiritual aspect, you know, and the aspect of, like, what's rooted in them as far as what stems back to their childhood that causes them to go through what they go through. Because that stems back, like, with my dad. He was abusive to my mom. I mean, it was horrible. That's the house that we grew up in. But thinking back, that his dad was abusive, you know. So it literally stems back to a lot of things in my mom's side of the family. A lot of sexual abuse happened on her side of the family. Like, my mom went through it as well, you know, when she was growing up as a kid. So it's literally a cycle, and that's a lot of things people don't really look at. And you have to be willing to not only, like, break your own cycle, but break that generational cycle as well, or it's just going to keep going. You know, so it's very important to look in the male aspect too, and I definitely take that in consideration when I do go to my speaking engagements or talk to any woman. I always make sure I still in her. Don't become that bitter woman. Don't do that, because you're always going to be unhappy. You're never going to be able to accept that man who really is for you when he does come along, because you're so guarded and you already think he has motives, and you're just going to be miserable. So you have to look past that, what he did, and of course it's going to be hard to, because you have to look in that aspect of, like, obviously something's going on with him, but at the same time it's not your choice to stick around and figure out what's going on with him.
And let me ask this question, because this was like Ramon, BC, and I was at the club kicking it. And I was at the club one night, and I was going inside the club, and this dude was beating on his girl in the parking lot. And from my childhood, like that, I really hate dudes that beat on women. Like, I want to put hands on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that's a woman. Like, why are you hitting on her? You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to, like, I went over there and said something. I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? You know, so I got a little vocal with him, and I told him to get his hands, and he stepped up to me. So I was ready to fight, like, because that woman could not defend herself. But then eventually, you know, he stepped back, and, you know, he left, and I think the lady was still there, and I brought her to security or whatever like that. So, you know, that died down. But what do we do, like, if we're in the community, because the Jews, like, they're going to college next year, and it's all type of situations that they're going to see and face. What do you do if somebody's beating on their girl, or the girl is beating on a guy? You know, what do we do?
That's a good question, because that's something I struggle with, because you'd be surprised how much of this is going on in Oklahoma. I'll never forget, long story short, I was just going to Walmart. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. What was I even going to Walmart 2 o'clock in the morning for? Anyway, and I'll never forget, I was walking, and I'm like, why is everybody standing outside in the street? Like literally, and I'm looking, and there's this guy just whooping on this woman. I mean, whooping her tail like it was no tomorrow. And I'm standing there, and the majority of people that are outside were a group of men. They're just standing there. So my reaction, I just walked up on her, and I grabbed her, and he drove off, of course, and I grabbed her, and I got her to safety, but at the same time, it's like, you have to be able to detect and really figure out like what battles is it yours to fight, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation to get hurt too. And that's very hard for me because I want to play captain save every woman, but I know, and for myself, I have to be careful. But when those incidents, use your resources. The police, that's what they're there for, as much as like situations are going with the police, but that's their job still at the same time. Be smart. Don't put yourself in a position where you might get hurt or you might get stabbed, because there's incidents that I've seen that happen. And so you just have to really use your instincts.
So I gotta settle myself down.
Yes.
And call the police.
Yes.
Cause man, like it's something in me that just want to rise up and just like, do it up. But I gotta work on that. So
So what would you do in a case if you're witnessing someone doing a mental abuse instead of physical abuse?
Ooh, and those are the worst.
Yeah.
The mental is worse than the physical, because scars and bruises, those heal, but the mental aspect's the hardest. And the best thing I can tell you to do is, it's okay to step in and try to boil down the situation, just kind of calm it down, but be willing to, after that situation escalates, be willing to start giving that person that words of affirmation. Be ready to tell her, ask her, do you need help? What can I do to help you? You don't have to deal with this. I mean, be ready to step in. It's easy to say, you don't have to put up with that, but I mean, she's heard it probably like 5 million times, but if you're going to step in this kind of situations, you have to be ready to give her, the stepping tools to get help, so like I said, like whether it's mental or physical, you just have to be careful, if that's a battle that you're willing to fight. Because that woman, or even if it's a male, whatever, they're sensitive at that moment. So you have to be very careful, in any kind of way how you're going to help them, and just be ready to pretty much fight for them.
So like, what do you say in those even weird situations, as far as like when somebody's being either physically or mentally abused, and it gets to the point to where they start abusing themselves, such as cutting and etc. Like, what do you say to somebody like that? Like, it's just crazy to me.
That's a tough one too, because I mean, there's only so much you can do on the other end of the table. You could only do so much as far as offering them help and telling them, what you could do for them, but they have to be willing to fight for themselves too. So I always tell people, when you're on the opposite of the table, do not feel bad if they're not gonna, allow you to walk them to that step of getting help. Do not take on that burden, because it's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt them, because you're going to feel like you failed them if they do decide to take that step and take their life. It happens. It's sad, but it does happen. And I run across that all the time. There's a lot of women that reached out to me, and the next thing I know, I hear on the news or I get a phone call like they took their lives, but I had to make sure that I didn't carry on that burden of I could have done something better, because they have to be willing to fight. Yes, like I said, there's tons of resources out there. There's shelters, there's counseling, there's, hospitals you can go to. There's church. All kinds of resources that people don't know about. But like I said, that person has to be willing to want to take that step and get that help and fight for themselves.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And, like today, because it is a little different for kids today. In schools, you see them maybe not abused, but looked over. I'm trying to think of the particular word, but like just not taken care of in a way, and you see that, and it's like you don't want to call Child Protective Services on somebody, because that's somebody's like life, a kid's life, and it's just like having Child Protective Services, because so many things run through your mind, like if I call Child Protective Services, they gonna take him away, and he gonna move somewhere, and it's like you breaking up a family.
Right.
So like, help us to walk through overthinking things. In situations.
Depending on like the condition of the household, or if it's in a sense of like you know that child's getting abused, and this and that, you need to call child services, because they're probably better off, getting into the system and praying to God that they are accepted in a home where they're going to be loved. But if it's something instance where it's just like the parents just having job problems, they're not able to feed their child or clothe them, or just give them the proper basics of life as far as a household, there's so many resources out there. There's grants you could apply for them. There's sponsors out there who are willing to go into that home and remodel it. I mean, literally, you can go to like not mattress firm, but I can't even think. Ashley Furniture. They do a lot of sponsorships. If you like write letters to them and stuff like that. There's a lot of people. You just have to know your resources. There's so many things out there that people are willing to, especially. It's a tax write-off for them too. Right? Because there's a lot of companies, they have to do at least one charitable thing a year, if not more. So there's so many different ways that you could literally help, a family member or a child without worrying about breaking up their home or whatever case may be. I mean, there's places that are out here that are willing to hire, people who are in, messed up situations, felons. I mean, all kinds of stuff like that. But you just have to, it's sad because it's not out there like it should be, so no one doesn't know. So that's where someone like me, and hopefully I'm going to get a team together, that's when we step in and we put those resources out there. Because if people don't know, they're not going to do it. And they're just going to be stuck where they're at. But in my opinion, yes, if I know there's a child or that home they're being abused, sexually abused, why keep them in that environment?
True.
You gotta go get past your feelings and think about them. It's not about you.
Well, do you have any tips for like people who haven't been strong enough to like open up? Like people who just need to cope and just not do anything like too rash or anything?
It's not really a tip that I can give someone that's wanting to get out of their situation. It's a choice for them when they get to that point where they're tired and enough's enough. Because I've only been, it's only been 3.5 years for me that I've been a survivor of domestic violence. I've been dealing with it since 2005. So just up until 2015, I finally got to the point where it's like, I am done. And it was with different men, too, that I was dating. It wasn't just one person I was in that relationship. It was multiple things, but it was in a sense where not only am I done with you, I'm done with this cycle. So it's really not a tip of, I could tell them, like, these are the basic steps of walking away. No, you have to get to that point where you are just sick and tired of it. And when enough is enough, you're going to run and, go to somebody and say, I need help. That's what I did. I literally went to someone and said, I need help. I don't know what to do. And that's where the hard part happened. The easy part was actually walking away, but staying away was the hard part. And that's where the actual, and that's where I could actually say, that's where I could give the tips, because then, it was literally like a process I had to go through daily to just break those soul ties. Not only soul ties, but just like go through withdrawals. It was like a drug. Like I was literally going through withdrawals. It was crazy. So that's where I could literally step in and say, yeah, those are tips I can give as far as when you walk away. But as far as giving a tip of when you're ready to leave that situation, that's literally on you.
That's legit. That's legit. So tell us a little bit where we can find this documentary. Like, will it be on social media or a screening? What do you plan on doing?
When it's done, are the promo videos out? I was just the promo video alone. We got about, I think, like 13, maybe 3,000 views. And it was just it was just like it was just a 1 minute 35-second video, just a little bit. It wasn't even the extreme part of it. So I'm so excited when we get back to working on it, because I still get people that ask about it, but I'm really hoping that it goes as far as I can take it. It literally is not about likes or or if I get money off it. It's literally something I'm just really passionate about. If I could save one person, that's good for me. So
that's good.
As of right now, the platform I'm using, like obviously social media, but I'm gonna send it to whoever watch it. Flip it in someone's mailbox.
How can people find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook, just Annette Williams, Instagram Annette Williams, Snapchat, I don't even know my Snapchat name. I don't use Snapchat.
I'm the same way. Like,
I don't even use my Snapchat.
You can find me on Snapchat.
You can always email me AnnetteWilliams0219@gmail.com. Those are the things that people access me with the most. Is mainly Facebook, though. I get a lot of.
Cool.
So.
And of course, you are working with Joshua Dunlap. Is that correct? Yeah. How does he play a part in what you do?
in every aspect. Literally, it was one of those things. Like I've known him since I moved here 5 years
Where
ago.
you from?
I moved here from Illinois,
Illinois.
but I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay, so you just all over the map.
I've been
then,
all
huh?
over. Yes. Oklahoma is way better than Illinois.
Oh,
Way
okay.
better.
Double in your ads.
Right. What's not?
Okay. I'm sorry.
But
Go ahead.
we go to the same church, Transformation Church. You know, Pastor Michael Todd.
Uh-huh.
Big ups to him. And it was probably 2000. I would say 14. He came to me, and I mean, it literally was never a thought for me to ever document my life story.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll write a book. You know, I'll
Yeah.
just talk to people about it. But the thought of actually doing a documentary, it never came across my mind. So he came to me about it, and I was just like, yeah. So we would have coffee. I told him about my life story, and he asked me if I want to document it. And he has literally been not only just a brother, but just my spiritual brother. Every aspect of me, like, I thank God for him because he's taught me a lot of things in more ways. Just in the aspect of the fact that I'm so close with him and his wife. I'm already being able to see what a genuine relationship looks like in a marriage. So it's like he's molding me. He doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like I just love him to death.
Yeah,
So,
he's good. He's good people,
He really
man.
is.
Just authentic, like real authentic cat,
100%.
man. And it's not too many people that you can find like that, you know. And it just tripped me out, his accent. Just I was like, man, where are you from? I thought he was from like New York or something, man. He was like, no, what is it? Dominican? Are you
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. I'm sorry, Puerto Rico. I was like, they got brothers in Puerto Rico. Check me out, man. So I'm learning new stuff every day, man. So but good people in Puerto Rico, man. And I saw a video of his mom's and his pops, I believe, when he went over there, man. So it's good to just know people that are, you know, making a difference, and you know, that knowing that God sent him, you know, in this area to make a difference. So. Good deal. So everybody, let's give it up for Miss Annette. Everybody. Yeah. Absolutely. Once again, social media, so everybody can find you one more time.
Annette Williams. That's you can look me up on IG, Annette Williams. My Facebook is Annette Williams. It's not private. It's open. Message me anytime you need to. My email is AnnetteWilliams0219@gmail.com. So there you go.
And whenever you do have your screening, please invite the juice.
Of
We want to do the red carpet. Hopefully, we can do the red carpet.
You already know.
Our crew can do that. And so yeah, Willie will be there, and Jay Boogie.
Yes,
Dickles will be there. The Great will be there. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's the
Our
Great.
whole crew.
It's the Great now?
Yeah, I know. Like we gotta add.
Okay.
We gotta add the Great every time we say her name.
Thickums
now.
the Great.
Yeah. Thickums the Great. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thickums the Great is gonna be there also.
Yes, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got some more phenomenal guests joining us here in just a moment. So make sure you keep it locked right here. Willie Will, who do we got on deck, man?
I got 2 songs for y'all, matter of fact. I got